leads, but Carr is strong. He catches back up to him after having to fend off the 23. He's got a great run. He's going to look underneath. The 71 does not defend. They're going to go wheel to wheel into 3 and 4. Who is going to be able to get to the line first here? Down to the inside. He's going to get pinched. They're going to come together. They're going to come together. Is Tim Downey Jr. going to get this? He runs into him. Who is going to get to the finish first? It's Massey.
That is Deterk trying to go defensive. Wanmi says, all right, that's fine. I'm going to go to the outside. You see him taking the widest line into that corner possible, just keeping momentum up around the outside, not taking no for an answer, and by sheer force of will alone, that is Wanmi Costa up into the final podium position.
Off of turn 4, Valenteus looking for the launch. He gets it right up to the wall. He's got a good lot of speed. Is this enough speed, though? As they come to the line and getting ready to cross, he goes around the outside, but it's not enough. And it is going to be Togo Hisada taking the win. Vincent has got the bit between his teeth right now. He said enough of this back and forth and allowing him through. I want the spot back, and he's going to get to the inside. Down into Sayat. Can he complete the pass? Keeping up the momentum. Caven Norris is going to remain wheel-to-wheel down into Vert, but it's not really a too wide turn. They're going to make it one this time, and Norris gets it back around the outside. So this is the 48 car here off of turn 4. Watch this. Really has to catch it. Just trying to, I bet he didn't lift that whole way. I think his foot was on the throttle the whole time.
Probably just a little bit too far back, trying to make that run up on Evan. Evan goes to cover the grass.
Espes blocked to the grass, side by side, 2 by 2 for the race win. Now nearly 3 wide. Hyde's taking a peek.
We've got a double here. They're going 2 wide and 2 wide. Oh, falling in. Oh no, we got contact. Cam Evan goes around. Oh, that's got to be rough. As
it's
we
not
have
over
the
yet.
local favorite going in, and Espes going for the lead, but Williams trying to get in there too. Where are we going to set up here? Coming into the final corner.
Williams trying to get the run on the left side, on the right side. Espes on the left side. A drag race. Williams takes the victory at Mount Panorama Circuit. Brandon Hawkin third, Espes in second.
Red Bull Ring last time out provided a lot of holding station and keeping things calm and collected. Philip Hamer held off at David Burns for P1 after a last-minute struggle by the latter. But will Brands Hatch provide a helter-skelter of pack racing, or will we see some smarter thinking from the drivers who have to contend with sweeping corners and back-to-back right-handers? We'll see how it plays out for round 5 of the Absolute Beginners League here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Robert O'Brien, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brands Hatch in its Grand Prix layout is a great little gem hidden in the British countryside and a great place for the skip barbers to peruse around. Let's go to our track guide to learn more about this great track.
Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula 1 to Formula 4, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day.
Well, DJ, you know, around Brands Hatch is going to be a bit of helter-skelter, especially around Sheens and Sterling's. But what else are you going to be looking out for with these skippies going around?
Well, I'm going to be looking out for a couple of the main overtaking opportunities, primarily probably going into Druids and Hawthorne Bend, as well as you mentioned it there. Sterling's may be a potential as well, but these drivers are going to have to be very careful. The elevation changes can throw off these cars a little bit, just like we saw last time out in the Red Bull Ring, specifically looking at Clark Curve and Paddock Hill Bend as two areas that can really throw that around. Drivers are also going to have to be a little bit careful going over Pilgrim's Drop, as that elevation can upset the car, but one way or another, Robert, the skippies here at Brands Hatch, it's a match made in heaven. It's going to be fantastic to watch.
Absolutely, it absolutely is. And the Absolute Beginners League always provide a good L session for us to look at, and a good L race to look at as well. Now, we do have to look at the driver standings. So Philip Hamer is currently leading the way on 124 points ahead of Manuel Lujera, who came home in third last time out in the Red Bull Ring. But David Burns down in third on minus 51 points. Gjord Machinsky on minus 58 deficit. And then Remco Plaisier in fifth, rounding out the top five, who's just ahead of Just Jonk for sixth position. And we get to sort of the teams, but you have those, DJ.
I do indeed, and it's a little bit more close at the top in those teams' championships. Two Stupid Dogs holding a very narrow advantage over Evolve Motorsport, with RT Racing only 6 points behind them. A little bit of a farther gap back to Video Browers Racing Team to the tune of 21 points, with Team Kombacht very close in behind them.
And it's worth pointing out, by the way, it's quite narrow up at the top, which is good. It's good to see at this point in the race, but with the 50-minute race of an open setup, the two fuel stops are going to be very, very, very interesting to sort of see how they play out in a race like this, especially around Brands Hatch. So many corners and having to basically hold the car together for as long as you can with one spare car, though, DJ.
Exactly, and we've seen that spare car come into play a couple of times, not necessarily with big damage, but just little dinks and dunks that drivers will pick up over the course of the race. And with those two fuel stops, it really has changed the entire complexion of this series. We've seen drivers really be able to vary up that fuel strategy, and especially on a little bit of a shorter lap like at Brands Hatch. That's going to make things very, very interesting, as there are going to be a multitude of setups, a multitude of strategies you can take.
The biggest strategy out there will be to, well, if you want to finish first you have to finish, and that'll be on the minds of nearly everybody out there today. And now we're going to actually cross over to the qualifying, because it is actually currently going on, or as my watch would say, just about to go on. We just ended practice and now crossing over into qualifying. It is going to be a 10-minute qualifying session, and that will entail quite a lot of, well, duct taping it together, I think, for a lot of these drivers. Just trying to make sure that they survive well, it seems to be quite cool out there. The sun has gone away, which is usual for Britain. As an Irishman, I can't speak for it. 20 degrees is the air temperature with the 22 degrees Celsius. Track temperature with a wind just to the southwest of 70 kilometers an hour. Now, I do know from experience that Britain, or well, British tracks like this, 22 degrees is actually not too bad. DJ, it's cold out there for you, but you know, will it affect the skippies at all?
It will affect them a little bit, Robert. Obviously, being a Southern Californian, that is absolutely frigid for me. No, it'll affect the skippies a little bit, specifically at warm-up and then at the drop the green flag and then coming in and out of the pits. Being stationary for a little bit, those tires will cool down. Drivers are going to have to be very, very careful on their first lap, specifically going down through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. They're just going to have to take it a little bit easy, I think, on that first lap, first couple of laps. And then once they come out of their pit cycle, they're just going to need to watch out for it. It's not going to be a massive keep an eye out. Obviously, no tire changes in this series, but sitting stationary to get the fuel in these machines, that will cool the tires down, and they'll lose a little bit of grip as a result.
Lose grip in these cars. Once you lose the grip, the car slides and off it goes, and that's the end of that. Riding on board with the car number 25 of Vincent Bren, as he is in qualifying rotation right now. All cars are on, well, essentially on the track, glued together, helter-skelter, and you'll be hearing me say that a lot, helter-skelter, so unfortunately you'll have to bear with it. He goes second behind Jeff Randall, who posted 1:43.667, but then as the time started coming in, Manuel Lejera is the time to beat of a 1:43.173. He places himself firmly on the time to beat zone for the car number. That's the car number 3 of Ryan Walker. I think that is Ryan Walker. It is not, actually. I thought it was. It said number 3 on the side of the car. But there is actually the actual Ryan Walker, and he is going to be my personal favorite. Not because he's a fellow commentator at GSRC, but he has. As I hear on my ear, he's my favorite too. That is from our director Ryan Walker, or Ryan Barr. Sorry, mispronouncing his last name. DJ, the all cars qualifying, we all know how the likes of Formula 1 do it. It's within tiers of, for instance, you do 20, then 15, then 10. With just all cars strapped together on one track, does it make it a bit of a traffic nightmare if you have to, do qualifying around everybody else?
Well, on a track like on some of the tracks that we've been to, frankly, it really becomes a big, big help as we jump over there to Philip Hamer as he works his way around this championship leader. On the big tracks like Hockenheim or the Red Bull Ring, it really becomes a help as you're able to use that draft to pick up behind one another and really kind of slingshot each other around the track. However, on a little bit closer, narrower, twistier circuit like Brands Hatch, I think it's actually going to be a little bit of a drawback. And it's not going to be nearly as easy to post a good time if you're tucked up behind another driver. Now, that said, we're still seeing a lot of drivers pair off and try to take advantage of any straight line speed advantage that they can get by taking advantage of the draft. So it's a little bit of one way, a little bit of the other.
And with that sort of back and forth thing of you take some, you lose some, does it sort of come down to sometimes luck can be involved when you do get a fast lap? We see Philip Hamer coming across the line. I called him Hamer at the start of this broadcast. I do apologize. The day has not been a good day for me getting names right. Let's just put it that way. But is it going to be a bit of luck either way, if you get a good lap or if you don't get a good lap?
There is a little bit of luck involved in it. You obviously, need, if you're using that slipstream tactic, you want to be able to catch the driver at just the right time, be able to move by them at just the right time, and sometimes that's a little bit outside of your control. But for the most part, when you're riding around here solo like Ryan Walker, then it's just all down to driver skill. You've really got to get it right and just get it absolutely perfectly. Brands Hatch is really a driver's circuit. There's a lot of corners that it's just, you can eke out that little bit more speed, just go through there with a little bit more guts, maybe not lift through that corner. It will really come to help you. So they're going to want to try to keep that going around as much as possible as Ryan Walker there. You can see some really great shots. You can see how those wheels are moving back and forth, the little micro corrections he's having to do, as you said earlier, Rob, from keeping that car from sliding.
Manuel Lejera, by the way, going even faster, and J.R. Hoops has hooped his way up into 5th, while, as I said, that more cars were piling into the gap that was being formed for a few drivers. Benjamin Harris now up to 2nd. Nick Carty up into 3rd, Gordon Machiniski up into 4th, and Josh Brain in 5th, and car number 9 for 6th. As we keep looking at Mr. Walker, as he comes around, does he improve? I think he is going to improve just about. He does by about a 10th, but it is only going to push him up 2 positions. Yeah, Philip Hamer, correction, sorry, I keep, unfortunately, murder, hitting his last name, and unfortunately not getting hammer time correctly, but he does need to get on the hammer, and absolutely hammer time in the lap, because he's not actually pushed one. And if it starts from the back, especially around Brands Hatch on lap 1, turn 1, that is a slide and a half, so he needs to get on it. Where would you start if you're doing this race, DJ? Where would you start today?
I mean, if I had the skill, I'd want to start in pole position, but I certainly don't have that. There's a reason why I'm in the commentary booth. But no, I think you really do want to try to be ahead. Overtaking, as I said, into Druids, into Hawthorne Bend potentially, maybe even a little bit of it going into Surtees. But it's still going to be tough. This is not an easy track to get an overtake done in modern cars, even the sort of trainer reduced downforce machines like we see in these skippies. I think this is going to be a pretty big track position race. You want to be as far forward as you can be. And so for Hammer starting down in the field, he has got to get a good time on the board. If he doesn't, it's going to be a real problem for him.
Just note, by the way, Manuel Lucchetta just posted yet another fast lap ahead of Franz Wittendorfer, who did a 1:38.678, just 2 tenths behind. And finally, does Philip post a lap? He does. Goes into third, smashes his way up into third, secures himself a good starting position at the very least. Josh Brain going into fourth there, and he's actually not doing another lap, I think. Yeah, he's not doing another lap. I don't think he'll have enough time to stop. He stopped the car, and Wojciech Polacek going into fifth position, the car number 28. Is that that is a Williams livery, isn't it? Yes, it is. I mean, I hate to ask this, DJ, but your thoughts?
Well, he does normally run that livery quite often, so it's not a surprise, but I always love seeing those kind of tributes. Obviously, Frank, the term is bandied around far too often. Whoa! Wojciech having a little excursion there. The term is bandied around far too often of legend, but Frank Williams was nothing but that, and seeing him, seeing the tributes that we've seen pour in over the past couple of weeks, or past week since the announcement of his passing, has been truly spectacular. And all of the stories that you have continued to hear about just his devotion and absolute love of all forms of motorsport continue to inspire to this day.
Absolutely. From a personal word, we want to extend our deepest condolences to the family of Frank Williams. We know that it's a big loss and a tremendous loss that he is no longer with us, but the impact that he's made in such a sport of Formula One, and for, I'd say, all of us, I don't think it'd be a much different place in the world if Frank had not put his best foot forward and not once but twice led teams around the block to victory and to many world championships in his case. And we hope to at least emulate some of that great racing that he spawned here today at Brands Hatch, with Vincent Brem providing some... Ooh, crikey, that is a lot of chassis steer, if word were to be a correct one. That is not the car turning, that is the chassis itself turning. And I mean, he's got somebody that's racing with him.
Yeah, indeed. That's actually the 74 directly behind him. That's George Matuszynski. So George doing a good job to make sure he doesn't come into the back of him there. Ooh, looking like he is. This looks more like a race than a qualifying heat, but we've only got 5 seconds left to go, so drivers about ready to put down their last flyer here in qualifying.
It is going to be the last lap for people who are currently on the laps, and for anybody who just crossed the line, they're going to have to go hammer time as JR Hoops attempts to jump through his own hoop and get into first. But no, that is actually going to be Manuel Lucchetta going even faster. So the hoop has gotten bigger for JR Hoops, who couldn't even hoop through his own hoop. And Franz Wittendorfer, does he cross the line? No, he does not go faster though. As we see Nick Carty crossing the line, does not go faster. Philip Hammer is up next. Did he deploy hammer time?
He doesn't look like he was able to improve. Not a lot of the drivers able to put in. Oh, but Loris Amadio is, and there is Philip Hammer able to bump his way back up into P3, so he is near the top of the charts right now. Good job for him. Watching Mackenzie Mann come across. Ryan Walker, GSRC zone, comes into P10, waiting for Simon Mayer to come across now. Looks like that's not going to be an improvement for Mayer. No, it is. That is up to P3 for Simon Mayer.
Simon Mayer putting the gauntlet down. He definitely just came from nowhere and said hello and put in a quite a quick lap. That's actually very, like, it just woke me up there how quick he was. Just went from the middle pack all the way up to third. I think everybody else around him just suddenly woke up to see Andrea Fuzzini crossing the line there, and I think that is actually going to be, I think that is every driver potentially that could qualify or set a lap. No, does Manuel look at it? Nope, he's going in for a practice entry. And actually, before we go for the grid, is it going to be worth practicing the pits here? I mean, it is not the worst pits and entry in the world, but is it always worth practicing pit entry?
It always is. You're carrying a lot of speed, even though you are coming directly off of Clark Curve. You're not taking the ideal racing line. You're cutting a little bit more to the inside. You're not dealing like a big chicane entry or something like that, or where you're carrying massive speed like Monza, but it's still one that you want to practice.
And as we get to practicing our grid entry, we are also going to practice names as we go down the list, with Manuel Lucchetta coming in first with a 1:38.13.159 in first position. JR Hoops was able to hoop his way into second place with Simon Mayer in third. Philip Hammer timed into fourth with Franz Mittendorfer in fifth. Loris Amadio in sixth with Remco Plaisier in seventh. In eighth is Georg Matsuniski, and ninth is going to be Steve Dwyer, and Nick Carty is going to be in 10th.
GSRC's own Ryan Walker will start up in 11th, followed by Josh Brain with Wojciech Podacek and Andrea Fussini in 14th. Giuseppe Tellini will be in 15th, followed by Benjamin Harris with Jeff Randall in 17th and Alexander Wilford in 18th. Vincent Brem will be 19th, and JT Kopanen rounds out your top 20.
And then down from there is going to be the last few off the grid. Tony Haynes, Titus de Jong, Dana Bowes, Mackenzie Mann, and Klaas Luden in 25th rounds out the rest of the grid. Now we get ready for 20 degrees worth of air, and that's actually going to be very hot for the British boys and myself in the booth. It's quite hot in the booth with 20 degrees, and DJ Clark having to put on another fleece as he's having to combat the cold temperature. Standing start though for these guys. It will be a bit of a palaver getting them into turn one. They'll have to be very quick, very clear, and to make sure that they don't make a mistake. I think that is the main thing, and I was wondering if iRacing was just having a play with me, but no, it was actually everybody sort of waiting to the very last moment to grid. Is that a tactic?
Maybe a little bit. I think it's also just a double check of everything. Make sure you've got the right setup, etc.
And as the lights go up, it'll be Manuel Lucchetta to look at, and green flag racing here, and Brands Hatch and Barney waving his flag with the enthusiasm of 1,000 lightning bolts as they come down into the first corner, absolutely holding it steady. Does Manuel Lucchetta. He all he needs to do, as Simon Mayer is getting hounded by Philip Hammer. Hammer time is a go for him. Franz Mittendorfer holding it steady there in fifth, with Loris Amadio in sixth, and then in seventh, Matsuniski is going again to Remco Plaisier, and down from there, everybody sort of holding it steady. Oh dearie me, it's like the sea of 1,000 turtles coming around Graham Hillbend.
It is indeed, and Mittendorfer getting a good move there to be able to bump his way back up into P4. Now taking a look at the inside of Philip Hammer as they work their way through Surtees. Whoever said you can't get some overtaking here, Dunn clearly hasn't seen anything out of these skippies. We ride on board with Mittendorfer as he tries to get past Hammer time. Philip Hammer as they go down over Pilgrim's Drop and rise their way up into Hawthorne Bend.
And as we get into the Hawthorne Bend, everybody has to hold their breath. What needs to be done is hold steady and do not, whatever you do, just absolutely holding it steady. Oh, that's a car gone off. Sorry, I thought there was a trail of smoke from the grass. That's somebody gone off. What on earth?
And that is JR Hoops. That was JR Hoops out of second place.
JR Hoops, unfortunately, ran through his own hoop. And that's not what I want to see in the circus. But unfortunately, there is not a circus here, as these guys are doing absolute best to try and pass each other. It's just so unfortunate with how heartbreaking stuff. Just and then he hits the wall for good measure. That would be heartbreaking.
You know, I've got to say, I think that's a result of those cold tires that we talked about. Only about 68 degrees, 69 degrees track temperature. Those may have not been up to speed, but we're going to jump back to that battle. Franz Mittendorfer looking like he wants to have another move now on the second place machine of Philipp Hammer. Trying to get around the best he can, but not sure if he's going to be able to get anything done. This is the battle back a little bit farther in the field. This is Andrea Fusini trying to ride behind Wojciech Podacek.
See Fusini, it's a bit of a train right now, but we are going to start seeing it is a 50-minute race. You have 2 pit stops. What will be? We'll break it down into sort of pit stop 1 and pit stop 2. If you're out there and we're on board Ryan Walker, great point. It's actually the perfect position. Actually, he's in 9th. And he is sort of in the pack, and he has gained a few spots. He was 11th, in now up at the 9th. Does he go for the pit stop early and try and make the second stint extend, or does he go standard, sort of, you know, breaking evens? Oh, crikey, as that is going to be a round cup DJ having a very big slide.
Yeah, very big slide. I think it's going to depend a little bit on track position. Whoa, as that was off in the back there. I think that may have been Durr that had, that was Pleisier that had that big slide through the back there. But in terms of that pit stop strategy, because this isn't a mega draft track necessarily, I think doing what your competitors are not doing is going to be the way to go around here. That's going to be the way to think about it. We now take a quick replay of a Josh Brain crash. That's him in the Jordan livery, the UKNA.
Oh, wow! Yeah, that car did not want to go around, and he tried correcting it, and then the car said, I don't want to go around, watch me snap, and oh, crikey, you can just see it slides. Oh, snap, and there we go into the, oh! There goes the, oh, well, the nose went, oh, snap, and it flew off. As,
Indeed.
Oh, dearie me. I'm here all night, ladies and gentlemen. And as we can see, kind of 26, Franz Mittendorfer, as he chases down, that is going to be Loris Amadio. And the two of them have actually lost the car on Philipp Hammer, just ever so slightly, as Philipp is trying to chase down Manuel Lojeda, who's practically the fast driver out there. So it's like, well, what can he do?
Not a whole lot, and you can see him just pulling away, riding on board now with Ryan Walker. This is a pretty good battle he's got shaping up with Steve Durr. He's got to be careful, though. Remco Pleisier definitely behind them. Wojciech Podacek and Andrea Fusini. Big and a little bit of a train running along here.
That train as well, because Brands Hatch is not the widest of tracks. I mean, you can make the overtake, of course, but I mean, you have the pit stops as well in this case. And now, would you want to make the pit stops early and then get to clean air, or do you risk a biscuit? As we see, the risking of the biscuit is made by Ryan Walker on the inside. He does have a very nice clear line and is a half a car length ahead, and he's actually cleared the position, and off he goes on poor Steve Dwyer, who's stuck on the outside. Had Remco Pleisier come by him as well. It's almost like he had to give him both positions. Oh, let's go into Druids.
Yeah, Durr just absolutely hung out to dry there. Fusini looks like he was able to get a little bit of a move. I think Nick Carty falling down through the order as well. This is where the real hornet's nest is, as we watch the number 80 machine of Andrea Fusini. They work his way through the corners and up towards Surtees. Looks like there's a slow car in the back. Yeah, the lead kind of gapping out a little bit here at this point, Rob, but the mid-pack here absolutely electric.
Absolutely. And that is going to be like it for the rest of the race, I reckon, because Remco Pleisier not letting up, and Ryan Walker is having his first taste of defeat on the track as he loses the place. Well, it's kind of the equivalent of, well, we do have to let him by, because fighting at this point would be a bit of a helter-skelter, and, well, at this point it wouldn't be beneficial, you know, and I don't think it'd be beneficial until the last 5 minutes, I don't think. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you want to try to get past if you have the speed, but you don't want to be battling too much. If we look at this gap right here, Pleisier has about 3.5 seconds before he gets up to the next train of cars in the form of Simon Mayer. And so there's one of two ways of really thinking about this. One, you may want to play a little bit of leapfrog on some of these longer straights. See if you can play back and forth, maybe gain up a little bit as Manuel Lucchetta sets the fastest lap of the race. But at this point, you also may just want to stay in line and see if that driver ahead of you is faster.
And just as we come into Druids, this is on board with Dwyer as he looks behind, well, not to the left, but more so to the rear left, and I think that's going to be a common place to look at, the rear left of the car as they try and get past. And just an absolute, it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of, you have to choreograph your moves very clearly to these drivers, or well, not to these drivers, but in these cars, just like the Formula V's on the Weekend Wars yesterday. You have to choreograph your moves very distinctly, very clearly.
Yeah, and there's always a lot of good choreography as they work their way around. You see them really going back and forth, making sure that you're not taking a risky move here. But that's normally a little bit more on, as we've said, the larger Grand Prix circuits, those kind of things. When you're running on a smaller track like Brands that's a little bit more of a club circuit nowadays, I think you're going to see some more aggression starting to show its face here, Robert, as we jump back with Bocek Podacek. He's thinking about being a little bit more aggressive on Steve Gerrard, going down into Clark's corner. Clark curve, rather. Ooh, he's going to poke his nose to the inside. This is a little bit of that aggressive overtaking we talked about.
Side-by-side action from, very close side-by-side action with the Skippies. As we see cars kicking up dirt overhead, there's going to be Giuseppe. I did get that right. That's the first name I've gotten right this race. As they come around Druids. Giuseppe trying to hold position. It's sort of like a scramble right now because Giuseppe was actually at the back of this scrap. And I'm not sure how to say it. It's a scrabble of just position taking, position giving away, really.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it. And these drivers being very calm and patient, what we often see in the Absolute Beginners League. This is a league of patience, over aggressiveness in both pit strategy and in on-track aggression little comes back to bite these drivers. The biggest thing where you really don't want to lose a lot of that position, you want to be a little bit less or a little bit more aggressive, is when you lose track of the cars in front of you. That's where it can get a little bit hairy. So we ride on board with Steve Durr. These guys, this battle that we're watching right here with Pleisier, Walker, Podacek, Durr, Fusini behind them, this little train, they've lost touch with Simon Mayer up ahead of them, and Mayer in turn has lost touch with Matuszynski. But I like what Ryan Walker's doing here. He's not going too aggressive on anything. He's just being very calm and collected, and not pushing too hard.
Going down for lap 7 out of 31 with 10 minutes gone. We've yet to see anybody take a pit stop apart from Josh Brain, who had an accident and took a repair. And just as we come down to it, it is going to be, that's going to be Steve Dwyer and Giuseppe holding off Andrea Fusini, as we can see. And it's getting ropey out there with these guys because they want to get past each other, but to really get past one another, they sort of have to, put the car in a place that's uncomfortable for both drivers.
Yeah, indeed. You really don't want to be offline here. We didn't really get a whole chance to talk about it in terms of some of the elevation change around here, but if you're offline, a little bit lucky there. That was Fusini thinking about a move on Steve Durr, but not able to do it.
I just saw Steve Durr sort of having to hold off, and then I bet you he was thinking exactly what you were saying, which was and just trying to hold off Andrea Fusini from making the move in a very, very awkward place in that last turn out onto the start-finish straight. And just an absolute crucial corner as well. If you do get a good run out of it, you can actually make the overtake. And just want to jump ahead to P2 with Philip Hammer and Lourdes Amadio And Mario is actually closing the gap quite considerably to his rival, well, at the moment his rival, of Philip Hammer. Hammer hasn't gotten the hammer down and put the rubber stamp seal of approval and trying to catch Manuel Ojeda, but this will put the dampener on it in battling with Loris Amadio.
Indeed, and as that battle continues, as we continue to watch here, Podicek trying to work his way around potentially the thing that we were mentioning earlier, though, in terms of that elevation change, what it means truthfully is if you get offline around here, you're not used to the way that the car's suspension will travel over those bumps, and the ideal racing line is really and truly one of the only things. Oh, I think I'm seeing Tellini and Podicek falling down the field.
Yeah, there was an accident, Giuseppe, and I can safely say what that was. That was an accident between Giuseppe, and I can also pretty sure I can say that a wheel started flying away. As we are looking at, this is Giuseppe on the inside, that he is just look at that. Nowhere to go, really, and then for his troubles, got spun around again, and just a bit of an accident. They had to, and a collision rejoining as well, and that was suspension broken. There was a wheel gone off there from, that is going to be the
that's Podicek.
That is Podicek, yeah.
And I've got to say there, I've got to put a little bit of the fault there on Wojciech Podicek, that I think that was a bit of an unsafe release. Is all right here. Things getting a little bit interesting for the battle for podium positions. Franz Middendorfer able to set the fastest lap of the race as he tries to close in on Loris Amadio. This is the battle ultimately for P2.
And for P2, Loris just needs to hold position, do the fuel save, and then he can leapfrog, and then potentially leapfrog towards Manuel Ojeda, which was what I think that's what Philip would secretly want at this point. But it is a three-way battle for fourth position as well, because Franz Middendorfer has now caught back up ever so slightly to the guys in third and second. He's lost. He just had a bad exit of a corner this time by, but he can get back.
Can indeed. We now ride looking out the back of Andrea Fusini. This is the remnants of that train we were following earlier. Fusini, Durr, Randall, Wilford, Cardi, all in line. It looked like there for a second that Steve Durr thought about a move, still thinking about a move a little bit, but not going to go for it there as they make their way through Hawthorne Bend.
Coming through, keeping it nice and tidy. That's the main aim of the game with these cars, tidy, because they do not like to be pushed. Especially if you push them too hard, they can slide around and the car will actually start rejecting any pretense of what you want to do with it. Going through Sterling, keeping it nice and tidy. Durr holding off George Randall, and then chasing Andrea Fusini.
Everybody just staying in line here. I would anticipate the first round of pit stops probably coming within the next 10 minutes or so. As Durr looking very temptingly close here. I get the sense he doesn't want to attack, and Steve is just happy to apply pressure to Andrea Fusini, see if there's any cracks in that armor, and waiting for a chance to go through.
And the chance can come now in about a minute, or it can come in about 10 minutes. At the very same time, you can really start, really start getting on going, as the cars ahead of you could be, could just be, launching themselves away from you. But as of right now, Dwyer is trying to claw back the toe from Andrea Fusini, and Loris Amadio is again trying to attack as Philip Hammer is holding off as best he can through very, very tight corners coming up into Sterling. Does Loris make the move in here? No, he doesn't. He can make the move. It's very dangerous too, but he can make the move coming into there, going wide though. He needs to hold, and he holds off, and then final corner, does he make? No, it's too far back. He does have a good slipstream though.
Does indeed, and this is interesting. I've been watching Franz Middendorfer, and remember that Middendorfer set the fastest lap a few laps ago. Right on board with him here. He had fallen back to the tune of about a second or so from this battle, and then was able to catch back up very quickly. Now, there he sets another fastest lap of the race. Now, I don't know if that was deliberate, if there was off that he had and he just has that much overspeed, or potentially he may just be a little bit struggling in this first sector to get the car up to speed. I'm not entirely sure, but I'd be a little bit wary of that number 26 machine, as I really do think that he's got a lot of speed of him. We now have a great camera angle there looking at the back of Hammer.
I'd just say, I was about to say, that's a very nice camera. But what it does also explain for me is the distance, because when we say 2/10 in the booth, it's like, oh yeah, 2/10. What's 2/10? We say it's relative, but I mean, look how close 2/10 is. Well, 10th and a half now to these cars. Look how close that is. I mean, that'll wake you up in the morning.
Indeed it will. Looking out the rear wing there for Philip Hammer, he'll be very, very scared seeing that. But that really and truly is the thing about riding that closely. We haven't really talked about it too much in this broadcast, but that mental game, just poking your nose in the back, and there you can see a little bit of it. That was Loris Amadio going off to the racing line just a hair early. Now that movement is going to register in Philip Hammer's brain. He's going to see a non-traditional line getting thrown there, and that's really going to force him to look in that rear-view mirror. And when you're looking in the rear-view mirror, that's not what you want to do. You do not want to be looking anywhere but straight ahead.
That's the goal for everybody right now. As they come around once again, this is going to be 31 minutes to go. Just under 20 minutes have gone, and a few drivers have now entered the pits. So Simon Mayer, Wojciechowski, Walker, Plugier, and Fazzini have all come into the pits. So they are quite the early ones coming into the pits. Well, everybody else has stayed out. So whoever's staying out needs to stay out and continue to stay out for as long as they can to get a quick second sector. Well, second sector is in the second part of this race, and then try and splash and dash to the end. But Lucchetta's on his own. I mean, is he drawing fuel save for, like, he's been going quick as lightning? He is, but is he fuel saving or is he pushing it to the max? What do you think?
I don't really anticipate there being a whole lot of opportunity to fuel save around this track. It's not like Hockenheim where you've got a lot of lift. The only truly long straight is from that run from Surtees to Hawthorne. Other than that, you've got a lot of stuff coming in and out. But there you can see Lucchetta just continuing to grow that gap little bit by little bit over the course of the laps as Hammer's come under a little bit. Yeah, but look at that consistency, just lap after lap after lap, not moving off. He's within 2/10 every lap.
He comes in now. He has answered our questions for us, as everybody else also comes into the pits, and that was a bit dicey there. I think that was Philip Hammer who almost just hit the wall on the inside of the pit lane, but holding off as best as he can, trying to get the good pit stop as we see now. As you can take a look at a replay just coming in, it's going to be on board with Philip Hammer. As you can see, coming into the pits. And oh, dearie me. Yeah, that's not what you want to see in the morning.
No, it is not at all. That'll definitely wake him up more than a little bit, I reckon.
When we look at it coming out in second place, Tony Hayes is the only one that has not pitted out of the top 10. I don't think he's actually he's the only one that has not stopped outright so far. So he is the last person to take the pit stop, with Manuel Lucchetta and Philip Hammer having closed the gap ever so slightly to each other. Manuel Lucchetta will have to battle for position essentially from Tony Hayes. Philip Hammer will obviously be hoping that Lucchetta is held up. Over here, we have the battle between Steve Dwyer in 11th and Jeff Randall in 10th. And Randall, a little bit of a backhand slide from him there. But I don't reckon it's hammer time yet for the guys. If you're storing energy now, well, not more so energy as in theoretical energy, DJ. Is it time to use it now or wait until the last moment?
From what we've seen out of this series, Rob, I really think that they're going to be waiting until about the last 5 minutes to really put the pedal down. That said, you know, I think if an opportunity does present itself, you're going to go for it. Don't get me wrong. But, yeah, just definitely one of those things that you're not going to want to try to push too hard, too early.
And as we see, Tony Hayes has actually come down into the pit, so he is now in as far as we can see, and we can just see the battle between Jeff Randall, Steve Dwyer, and the guy ahead of Alexander Wilfred. So it's a three-way battle between the three of them as Jeff Randall looks to see if he wants to make the move on the inside.
He's thinking about it a little bit. Ooh, poked his nose there just for a second, but not enough to really get that move going. He ran a hair wide, though. Steve Dwyer holding up behind. He's not going to try to go for anything too crazy here either. Everybody really starting to separate out. That big battle, that big train that we were following, that's really broken away to the tune of about a second in between each driver. This train right here and then the battle for P2, really the only close trains that we still have left remaining.
Coming into it now, into the rise of Druid's dip into Druid's rise, and into the dip, then into the rise. As we can see, just using all the track. That has got to be a little bit of wishful thinking from Alexander Wilfred as he tries to navigate his way around and try and hold off Jim Randall and Steve Dwyer. Then coming through the three right-handers, then skipping overhead. This is actually a three-way between Franz Wittendorfer, Lars Nadio, and Philip Hammer, as Philip is trying to break away from this guy. Oh, that's Wilfred, by the way, back down in ninth. Sorry to cut across. Back down in ninth. Wilfred has actually lost the battle, but he didn't lose it in Stirling. He lost it 2 corners before.
Yeah, and I just checked out the replay on it. It looked like that Wilfred just ran a little bit wide going through there, touched a little bit of the grass, had to back off, and that's what caused him to lose that position ultimately. Got a little bit sideways as well, just for good measure.
Holding off, and that is Steve Dwyer, by the way, as he goes by again on the inside, but we still have plenty of action for these guys to look about. We'll be coming to a replay. You can actually see what took place. Oh, sorry. Correction, we are now back live on board, looking down into Druid's dip, into the rise. And we can just see the sun's actually out now. Has that made a difference in temperature, DJ?
No, it really hasn't. We're still sitting at 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees air temperature, but it has made a difference on the track. It's up to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 degrees Celsius. So it has warmed up a little bit, but the ambient air temperature getting kept cold by that breeze, I'd have to imagine.
The breeze still holding at least a little bit over the track temperature away from the air, or vice versa. I'm not the best at physics, so somebody else will have to explain it to me better than I can. But at the very same time, we just need to come back. Poor Josh, he's not had the best of luck. He's coming out of the pits, coming onto the racing line, and I do think he made the same mistake as before. Goes onto the dirt, holds his... I think it might have just been a timing tower issue with that one, but we'll just keep an eye on him because he has actually had not the greatest luck either, getting back out there after his accident on the first or second lap. This week, past the halfway mark, 25 minutes have gone, or 26 minutes have gone. It is now 24 minutes remaining.
Indeed, they do, as we continue to watch a little bit of this battle up front. That is Lucetta, who has been caught by Philip Hammer. It should be noted, the gap now only about 1.7 seconds. We're keeping our eyes focused on that battle between Amadio and Middendorfer. This is looking out the back of Manuel Lucetta. You see that gap just shrinking down a little bit more, coming under 1.7 now.
1.7 seconds is the gap that Philip Hammer needs to close in, and we're on board with Franz Wittendorfer on his nose cam as he looks to the rear end of Loris Amadio and Philip Hammer. We get a clear wide shot, and we can actually just see the gap that's between sort of the two groups, the leader and the group of 2 to 4. I'm just wondering now, will Philip Hammer continue looking forward, or does he start looking in his rearview mirrors, DJ?
Well, I think he's going to have to do a little bit of a mix of both, as Hammer on that last lap was about 0.03 of a second slower than Lucchetta. So he's got his work cut out for him, with Amadio also really bearing down his neck. So it's going to be very, very tricky one way or the other for him to do this. I think he may hope to gain a little bit of time in the pit stops. He may try to gain a little bit of time wherever he can out on the track. Hammer certainly has his work cut out for him, as we know just how quick of a driver Manuel Lucchetta is.
And Lucchetta, obviously, currently at this very moment in time, is putting the rubber stamp on that and saying how great he is doing out there. Well, at the very moment in time, he's definitely putting the rubber stamp of approval of that statement, but at the very same time, you just see now a second faster on lap 13, just 9/10 for Philip Hammer. So Hammer was actually able to gain time back. So it is not the word I'm looking for is a be-all, end-all for Lucchetta. He can still make mistakes, and he can still create a pull-up effect for the rest of the guys behind him.
Yeah, and I was looking on that lap. Lap 13 was the lap he came into the pits. So it doesn't look like he lost any time in the box necessarily. Yeah, I think that's just better on and off pit road. It must have been Lucchetta just got a little bit slower of an exit coming off of the corner, or coming out of pit road compared to Philip Hammer. But Hammer has been able to take out about 1.5 tenths out of that time, despite having Amadio still bearing down his neck.
Coming into Graham Hill, holding it steady. Needs to have a great run out, and if he don't have a great run out and you get slid across from touching the grass, that is your race over. And because the Armco is right there and ready and waiting to greet you. As we can see on board, that was just on board with Loris Amadio as he chases down Philip Hammer. I do want to actually cut back to a critical position of 11th to 10th, top 10 sort of having a grip of its own, but we also do have that sort of critical zone for Randall and Wilfred as they try and climb back towards Steve Duer, who Giuseppe Tellini is leaving behind, and Ryan Walker is all on his own.
Yeah, we're really having that sort of breakaway look at everybody, just kind of all spaced out, and nobody necessarily really getting into these trains like they were earlier. The biggest one that we have is obviously this battle that we've been continuing to keep our eye on as we ride on board with Franz Mittendorfer. You can see that battle. Amadio just stalking behind Philip Hammer, seeing if he can do anything.
You can just see how much... I'm still always surprised when I look at the skippies and I look and see how much pitch the car has to the side. Basically just the car is just sliding quite considerably. It's not even just a little bit, it's quite a lot coming through these turns. How difficult is it to get used to that, DJ? If you're one of these drivers, you want to start new and you start in the skippies, how difficult is that to get used to? Do you just sort of hope and pray that it works, or is it something that you have to get used to in the car?
Well, it really, because it's sim racing, and when if you were racing this car in real life, you'd frankly be able to feel that pitch and the roll of the car through your backside, and that's how you would really get adjusted to it. But when you're doing it in a virtual world on the sim, it really all comes down to feeling it through your fingertips. You really want to be able to get your force feedback set right to feel where the car will start to break away on you. You want to have heavier force feedback when you are driving it around so that you can feel when it gets light. When the steering gets light and traction breaks from you, that's when you can sense it. That's what makes sim driving such an interesting sport as compared to real-world counterparts. You frankly have to feel everything through your fingers and hear it more and be more accustomed to the way that it drives around and the way that the tires sound on the track.
I can definitely get behind. As we can see, still battling for the top 10 is going to be Jeff Randall and Anthony Rifford. Now, coming back through the field, I think it is high time we did take a look at the second pit stop. It is in an event that time. Who is going to be sort of the biggest people to look out for in this next pit stop, DJ?
I think the biggest one you've got to look at is Philip Hammer, number one. He is going to be a driver that you have got to keep your eye on. He was able to gain time over Lucchetta in that last stop. That's going to be absolutely mega. I would also look at Amadio or Mittendorfer. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see one of them decide to pit a lap early or a lap late. Maybe try to jump somebody in the pits. I don't think you're going to see this lead pack go in and pit on the same lap like they did the previous time, because at this point, they're trying to get themselves ahead.
Coming through now. Three-way battle between second, third, and fourth. That is going to be Philip Hammer leading the way. Loris in the middle in that Williams liveried car, and then Franz in fourth position, holding bearing. And I think if I were in this group of four right now, or group of three right now, correction, I'd actually be Mittendorfer. I think that would be a lot easier. I don't know if you'd agree, DJ.
I would as well. You're going to have a fraction of a second longer to respond to anything. You're able to dictate that pit strategy a little bit more. It'll be very, very interesting to see what he decides to do in terms of coming in and out of the pits with that. And he's in the catbird seat because he's got the double draft here at this point. It's not super strong around Brands Hatch, but it's still powerful enough in these skippies that he'll be able to pull it and do well with it.
Going through now into Graham Hill once again. And you can see the gap is getting ever so slightly smaller, actually. On that last lap, I think Lucchetta had a bit of a moment or something, or slowed down ever so slightly, because Hammer was actually able to catch up, and he's still actually catching up ever so slightly. So it is now getting to the point where it is getting into the danger zone for Lucchetta, as he has a gap of just over 1.4 seconds now to Hammer himself, as Hammer is also having to deal with Amadio, who might just be holding behind. But it is getting to that stage, DJ, where it's all or nothing, really.
Exactly. It is all or nothing. I think once they make this final pit stop, and remember, they came in at about 20 minutes after the start of this race, so we expect all these pit stops to start rattling off here within the next 15 minutes. The pit stop window is open for this second stop, but as soon as they all decide to start coming in, well, that is when the gloves are off and they're getting thrown on the ground, and we are going to be out in an all-out knuckle-dragging fight.
Once again, that is going to be Philip Hammer closing in the gap even closer to Lucchetta, and it is now starting to get ever so dangerous for the guys, because once the lead has Hammer has caught Lucchetta, that is when it will be, well, I'm hesitant to say it, but it will be helter-skelter out there, because it is actually now happened. Philip Hammer is now in slipstream range. It is game on.
It is indeed, and this is the moment when Philip Hammer is going to be, or when Manuel Lucchetta is going to be asking the question of if he wants Philip Hammer to field or break him at this point, and that's what it's all going to come down to. They work their way through here. I think we could see this decided in pit lane. We could see it decided on track, but either way, I've got to give credit to Philip Hammer here. He has really, really put the pedal down and driven some great laps over this last couple of stints.
Philip Hammer putting the hammer down and also keeping the gap behind him a comfortable way as it is, because he needs to keep an eye behind it, because Amadio has been constantly holding him to a T to come into the Sterling. Mittendorf also holding Madio to an account, as they're sort of, all of them are holding each other to account. I think it's safe to say all of them holding each other to account as is per the usual. But Amadio breaking away and being the first to actually blink. He is in the pit first, and I think he's actually probably the one who's going to have the last laugh, DJ.
He very well may be. As you remember, I said that I think these drivers are going to try to dive in a little bit out of sequence from one another. And that's exactly what Amadio was thinking of doing there. As we right now on board with Benjamin Harris back in 9th place. That's JC Kopanen. Wow, barely able to catch that from Benjamin Harris.
Yeah, that was a oh dear slide. Probably having to check himself afterwards and hopefully have some like tissue paper to wipe his brow, because he probably would have screamed with just how much opposite luck he had to apply. But you could just see yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a heart attack just there.
I believe the technical term for what that is a expletive moment for Harris, but he is definitely able to hold on to it, and more power to him. I know I could not have done that. But a couple more drivers come down pit lane, farther down the order, Tony Hayes, Nick Carty, as this is Hammer. Hammer's within 0.2 of a second on Manuel Lucchetta.
Lucchetta looking around, cracking under pressure, maybe. Probably having to tussle and bustle with Hammer, who is just now starting to wake up, and they're both in the pits.
All right, so both of them deciding to come down together, and remember what happened last time, and that was that Philip Hammer was able to get out a little bit faster. Now, crucially here, Franz Mittendorfer has decided not to come in. Loris Amadio, however, has obviously pitted early, and so that'll be a deciding factor on it.
And as the cameras pan to the left, little drone on Brands Hatch, and that is bad news for Hammer. He has not maximized his time in the pits. He's actually spent another 2 seconds in the pits from the box, cone to cone, 1.6 seconds. So all that time he just made up. Well, he's going to have to do it all over again.
He is indeed, as is Loris Amadio, who came out about 2.3 seconds behind Philip Hammer, so he's lost some time as well. Riding on board now with Greg Matuszynski, who has made a pit stop. He's coming up behind Benjamin Harris and Remco Pleisier. Those are two cars that have not pitted yet.
Going on with George Matuszynski as he tries to combat Harris, and then Pleisier in 6th position as they again come around for another time. So the second pit stop has happened for a few drivers. Everybody else is sort of looking towards the pit stalls with 10 minutes to go. They will be having to sort of check the pit stalls and then check their watches and then hope and pray that they make the pit stops. But yeah, nobody has, apart from poor Philip Hammer, almost had an accident with the wall as Matuszynski goes on the inside.
Going to send it down the inside off Hawthorne Bend, or at least try to. That is on Benjamin Harris. Matuszynski, a faster car. Looks like he's got the move done. Indeed, Harris is going to let him go. Your temporary leader, Franz Mittendorfer, is in pit lane as of right now, waiting to see where he will come out on track. That is him. I see Lucchetta and Hammer making their way around. Matuszynski is released. I think this is going to be Lucchetta advantage. Yes, it is. The question now, is Mittendorfer able to hold off Amadio? It looks like he is. He slots right into 3rd place.
And while he did have a bit of a slide and a bit of an accident on his own, he is actually still ahead of Amadio. And here comes Benjamin Harris on the inside now. Well, not on the outside, currently coming in on the inroad of the pits as he takes the pits off from 8th position and then will join, I think, about 15th to 16th comparative. And here we go. Philip Hammer, I did say he'd have to make up all that time again, and he's already started making up about a 10th or 2 every lap.
Yeah, he has. He's closed it down to about 1/10 of us, 1.1 seconds. So this may not be day done and dusted for Philip Hammer here as he tries to close in on the leader since the beginning of the race, Manuel Lucchetta.
And if you closed in, I would say, DJ, if you closed in about a second in one lap, that would have been the greatest slap of the gods right there. And I would have put that up for iRacing's clip of the week, but unfortunately not for Hammer this time by. He will have to hold off for now, as we just see an actual battle form for third place. Podium position is up between Mittendorf and Amadio. Amadio has actually started closing the gap quite considerably, though.
Yeah, indeed he has. Whoa, that was a big lock up there for Mittendorf, a big slide there for him. Jump back here. This is Vincent Brim, JT Kopanen, and Benjamin Harris on your screen. Another little three-car pack starting to develop. This is down for P11.
And it's a three-way battle for P11, essentially, between these guys as they come and try and take a little bit of a slice of pie away from one another. But who will blink first as it comes to Sterling? Keeping it nice and tight, his back end sort of starts to step out. Tire wear is actually starting to get to be a factor here. It has been 40 minutes at this stage, and it'll start soon hit 45. And I think the tires do start wearing out ever so slightly at that point for these cars. So they will have to be focused on making sure that they don't lose control.
Yeah, exactly. You know, these Skippy tires are normally, they last to about 30, 45 minutes. So running it to a full 50-minute race, it can be a little bit tricky on them. You're going to have to be careful. Oh, the game is on for Philip Hammer. He has got the gap under a second. Was able to gain up a 10th there in the first sector, it looked like, and about another 10th in the second sector. So he is pushing.
Philip Hammer, absolutely not letting anything up to chance, needs to make sure that he continues to push as hard as he can. There is only 6 minutes left of this race, and by the magic of math, I think it will be about 4 laps left after they cross the line. So it will be down to the next 4 laps are going to be crucial. The next 6 minutes are going to be crucial for these guys.
Yeah, indeed they are. And Lucetta not exactly looking like he is withstanding this pressure well. Again, on that last lap, he was 29 hundredths of a second slower than Philip Hammer. So Hammer certainly closing in.
Keeping it nice and tidy is the aim of the game. And, well, if it's nice and tidy you want, it's nice and tidy you'll get. And he will have to do better laps than Philip Hammer has been doing, who's been closing the gap ever so slightly. We've been right on board with Loris Amadio chasing down Mittendorfer, who has the gap has now closed considerably, as Mittendorfer has lost time to the top two and is now losing time to Amadio.
Yeah, he is. It's the gap between himself and Hammer is up to about 4 seconds. And there is Philip. He's been able to cut down about 2/10 in the first sector, about the same in the second sector. That gap to the lead is down to about 3/10 of a second. He's certainly closing in, and that's Klaas Loden directly in front of them. That's some lap cars. Klaas just trying to stay out of the way of the leaders. He doesn't want to be a hindrance here to the battle for the P1.
And the battle for P1 is going to be absolutely crucial for these guys, because not only do they want this, it's going to affect them majorly for about a corner or two if somebody gets held up. If somebody does get held up and then they lose the slipstream, that's race over effectively, unless Philip were to make a mistake. You can just see how much Lucetta is having to slide to correct the car. I really do think Lucetta has not been keeping an eye on it. I think he has been driving his heart out, and then it's actually I think it's snapped back at him, the car. I think Hammer has been doing a lot better of tire wear, for instance.
Well, there's the old great story from Jackie Stewart around a track very similar to this, I believe, where he talked about the fact that his team told him to slow down and take better control of the car and take better care of the car, and his team got angry at him. Tyrrell got angry at him because at that point he started putting in faster and faster lap times, because that's what happens when you drive well. If you're calm, you're in control, you're not making violent motions, you're not being too hard on the tires, you often find yourself going faster. I think that's exactly what Philip Hammer has done around here. He's been able to close that gap. Now it's under 3/10 of a second. He is all over Lucetta, and I think he's saved a little bit more tire life in those tires.
And with the extra life in those tires and the fact that he does have the slipstream, quite considerably. It's actually going to be, I really do think Philipp Hammer is setting himself up, and I think Manuel Lochetta has actually suddenly woken up to the fact that, oh dear, he might be losing P1.
I think he has as well, but here comes the move for Philipp Hammer. It's going to be down to the inside, going through the first corner, done and dusted. Lucetta tries to fight him back a little bit, but it's a little bit too late. But no, Lucetta's going to have the inside coming up the rise to Druids.
And in through Druids goes the slides. Philipp Hammer's not able to make it effective on the outside, but on the inside, can he do it through Graham Hill Bend? Nope, not what he can do. He'll have to come back around and do it all over again. But Lucetta knows that Hammer is on the charge, and it is Hammer time for second place. And I don't think Hammer wants to be the one in second as he comes around again.
Comes around again, looking at it through Pilgrim's Drop as they go down the hill. That's going to be Hammer trying to go the long way around Hawthorne Bend. Is he going to have anything there? Ooh, tail end gets a little bit happy on him, but he doesn't quite able to make the move just yet. They now work their way through Westfield Bend and down through Dingle Dell. Lucetta has the advantage, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to be at about one lap to go when they cross over the line.
Diving into Sterling, and we see the camera stuck to the bottom tray facing backwards on Lucetta's vehicle is going to be the bright shiny car of Philipp Hammer, as I think it is going to be white flag just by the whiskers of the hair on the cat. And here comes Philipp Hammer once again on the outside this time.
Gonna try that around the outside, see what he can do there. It looks like Lucetta's able to hold it out, but is Hammer able to carry some more momentum as they go down through Pilgrim's Rise? No, Lucetta has it covered off. Hammer tries to find a little bit there through Druids. They now plunge back down the hill and into Graham Hill Bend. Lucetta doing everything he can defensively to hold it out, runs almost to the edge of the track, almost kicking up some dirt as they go. Hammer, the rear of that car still looking a little bit slidey. He's only got a couple more opportunities left, but it's all on the backside of this track.
Coming in through on towards Druids dip into the rise. Needs to make sure that he executes very well. He's only got one real more big move to make, and that's the overtake, but he's only got one place to do it, which is going to be on the triple right-hander and then into Sterling, which is going to be exceptionally dangerous. Will he make the move coming into the triple right-hander? No, he doesn't. Still holds behind. Does not want to play his cards just yet. Still holding very neatly behind, not pushing. Oh, well, he's now starting. Oh, big slide coming through the third right-hander into Sterling. Does he make the move? No, he's too far back. The mistake might have cost him.
May have cost him indeed as they now make their way on clearways. He's only got a few more corners to go here into Clark Curve. I think Lucetta may have it as that's another mistake and a Hammer.
Hammer with another mistake seals the deal, and Manuel Lucetta from Italy secures the win here at Brands Hatch. Car number 91, take a bow, my son, as we jump back to the car number 66 in ninth position. That is going to be Steve Way, looking to make the move on Alexander Wilfred on the outside, making it nice and tidy. Hold on to your hats, come on, don't do it now, gentlemen. It's still a bit too early. Oh, on the inside, still holding. He's hugging the inside curve as much as he can. Steve Dwyer on the last corner of the last lap makes a move and overtakes to take 8th position.
That was an incredible run there for Steve Durr. Kudos to him for being able to take P9. This is JT Kopanen now as he runs back, trying to close in on Vincent Brem. I don't think that's going to be close enough, Rob.
Nope, not close enough, unfortunately. If you're half a second behind, unfortunately, it is going to be a bit of a trouble for you, but we are just going to kick it over to a quick break. But don't go away. We are going to have post-race interviews and post-race analysis. Stick around and screens on GSRC.
While
leads, but Carr is strong. He catches back up to him after having to fend off the 23. He's got a great run. He's going to look underneath. The 71 does not defend. They're going to go wheel to wheel into 3 and 4. Who is going to be able to get to the line first here? Down to the inside. He's going to get pinched. They're going to come together. They're going to come together. Is Tim Downey Jr. going to get this? He runs into him. Who is going to get to the finish first? It's Massey.
That is Deterk trying to go defensive. Wanmi says, all right, that's fine. I'm going to go to the outside. You see him taking the widest line into that corner possible, just keeping momentum up around the outside, not taking no for an answer, and by sheer force of will alone, that is Wanmi Costa up into the final podium position.
Off of turn 4, Valenteus looking for the launch. He gets it right up to the wall. He's got a good lot of speed. Is this enough speed, though? As they come to the line and getting ready to cross, he goes around the outside, but it's not enough. And it is going to be Togo Hisada taking the win. Vincent has got the bit between his teeth right now. He said enough of this back and forth and allowing him through. I want the spot back, and he's going to get to the inside. Down into Sayat. Can he complete the pass? Keeping up the momentum. Caven Norris is going to remain wheel-to-wheel down into Vert, but it's not really a too wide turn. They're going to make it one this time, and Norris gets it back around the outside. So this is the 48 car here off of turn 4. Watch this. Really has to catch it. Just trying to, I bet he didn't lift that whole way. I think his foot was on the throttle the whole time.
Probably just a little bit too far back, trying to make that run up on Evan. Evan goes to
look
cover
at
the grass.
Espes blocked to the grass, side by side, 2 by 2 for the race win. Now nearly 3 wide. Hyde's taking a peek.
We've got a double here. They're going 2 wide and 2 wide. Oh, falling in. Oh no, we got contact. Cam Evan goes around. Oh, that's got to be rough. As
it's
we
not
have
over yet.
The local favorite going in, and Espes going for the lead, but Williams trying to get in there too. Where are we going to set up here? Coming into the final corner.
Williams trying to get the run on the left side, on the right side. Espes on the left side. A drag race. Williams takes the victory at Mount Panorama Circuit. Brandon Hawk in third, Espes in second.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Absolute Beginners League here at Brands Hatch, and Manuel Luqueta is your race winner for today, who managed to top the pops, really, for the for the race win today, just ahead of, I think this is going to be the qualifying results on your screen. We'll just get them switched over to the race results here in just a second, but I can tell you that Manuel Luqueta and Philip Hamer were first and second, with Franz Middendorfer in third, and that is going to be a good race for Franz Middendorfer, who looked like he might have been out of the running for a little bit, but then came back and got it, with Loris Amadio in fourth, Remco Blige in fifth, Jor Matinishki in sixth, Ryan Walker, very good result for him, very quiet race though, he kind of just went to seventh and stood there and had a very nice race with himself in seventh place. You can see by the sort of the gap between himself, sixth and eighth, that he kind of was in no man's land, so it's kind of hard to race sometimes when you have something like that. Steve Dwyer in eighth, ahead of Alexander Wolfert in ninth, and then 10th was Jeff Randall.
Coming home in 11th was Vincent Bream, followed by JT Kopanen, with Benjamin Harris in 13th and Titus de Jong in 14th. Tony Hayes was 15th, followed by Nick Carty and Josh Brain in 17th. He was the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Klaas Loden was in 18th, 1 lap down, and Andrea Fusini 19th, with Dana Bose in 20th.
And then down from there in 21st is going to be Giuseppe, who retired the car, I think. And then we have the official retirees for this race. 22nd is going to be Simon Mayer, Mackenzie Mann in 23rd, Budacek in 24th, and then unfortunately Hoops had tried to do the hoop skip and a hop, and unfortunately hopped into the pits and had to retire the car due to his car not being drivable. Well, we do have Ryan Walker with us. Ryan, congratulations on a P7, my lad. You did very well out there. Got a good start and then kept going, and then sort of got stuck in no man's land and had to stick in 7th. But how was it out there today?
Yeah, that was good fun. I was expecting it well, with it being Brands Hatch, I was expecting it to be very chaotic just because of the tight nature of the track. But surprisingly, most of the drivers were very well behaved, and yeah, the racing was great. And I got, like you say, I got a good start, and then for the rest of the race, I was pretty much in no man's land. But P11 up to P7, I think it was. I'm happy with that.
4 position gains in a good order, but as well as which, quite difficult once you got out into 7. It kind of became no man's land. Is it a track that is conducive to that, or is it just sort of how things played out today? Because I know we had a few accidents there on the track, and sort of gaps started forming up.
I think it's just. I think anyway, it's one of those tracks that with the Skippy or any draft or slipstream cars in general, it seems to be. If there's any accidents or there's a pack, it gets bunched up and the pack in front of them gets away, it's just one of those tracks that as soon as the pack breaks up, it's difficult to stay in the slipstream. But on the other hand, it's a very rewarding track if you get on top of it. And I think with this car as well, it's with the cold tyres around here, it's a fun car.
And while it is not going to be as sort of full, acceleration as Red Bull Ring was last week, it still is quite a nice track to drive around. But are you looking forward to Hockenheim next week?
I didn't even realise there was another round next week. But I know that some of the guys were saying on Discord that the Race of Champions is next week. So
it's Race of Champions. Sorry, my apologies.
Unfortunately, I can't make that due to other commitments. But still, I'll be back for Formula Neagle next season. Is it because I love the community, I love the league, and just I love the respectful racing that goes on.
Perfect. A pleasure it is always to talk to you, Ryan. Do you have any shout-outs or any thanks you'd like to give?
Firstly, to you guys for putting on the broadcast. You always do a good job. Looking forward to watching it back, since I don't have to go to work this week, so I can sit down and chill with a nice beer. I'm not advertising drinking, driving, by the way, just in case anyone complains. But secondly, the people in the ABL community for making it a fun league to race in, and looking forward to next season already.
Absolutely. A pleasure it is talking to you, Ryan. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your night off, it seems. And we'll catch you again for when ABL goes for another season.
Thanks, Robert.
And that was Ryan Walker speaking to us here in the booth. We don't have anybody else to interview right now, so I think I'll ask a question to DJ. I won't leave him out just so much. What are you looking forward to next season for the ABLs, DJ?
Well, I think I'm looking forward to some more of the new blood that keeps coming into the series. It was only a couple of seasons ago that we saw Manuel Lucchetta come in and really change up the order. I think the emergence of Philip Hammer as a force between him, Burns, and Lucchetta, also the good runs that we saw today out of some of the newcomers, Franz in particular. I'm just looking forward to another good battle in that way.
Perfect. And I'd like to send out my own thanks and thank you to you guys, the two of you, of DJ and Ryan, for helping us broadcast the ABL today here at Brands Hatch, but also a thanks to go out to the people that provide the software and hardware for the broadcast that are listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Gina Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music, and see on the screen how to get a hold of her great work at ginalalonde.bandcamp.com. Once again, thanks to the team today of DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. You can find more about GSRC at globalsimracing.com. That's listed on your screens, or through our social media as well, at Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Facebook, or view us on the YouTubes. How else are you viewing us then? Check out our sim racing merch at the simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep that link down in the description. Go on, you know you want a piece of merch, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here at GSRC. Now, the next race is the Race of Champions. It is not the next round, as the season has just concluded for the main set of races, but next week, Sunday, December 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time or 6 p.m. GMT, will be at Hockenheim GP. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And at 4:30 p.m. today, for 30 p.m. today. For the ET folk, it'll be the Big C's MX-5s at Lime Rock Park. So come on, write it down. Join us. We'd love to have you around. But until then, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.